It just takes one simple checkbox for your judgment to be rejected. The court won't make a single revision for you. So we have had folks, there's some people that don't want to hire us necessarily. They just think they think they only have a few things they need to fix. And it turns out there's several, and they'll try and get me to give them some free information, which I will to a degree, but I'm not the self-help center. I think I have that as part of what I want to talk about later today. But one simple checkbox, that's all it takes. You miss a box on the any of the forms, the 180, the 170, the 144, 165, anywhere. You just don't tick that box and they will reject your judgment and say you didn't check one of these boxes. And usually it's an option, right? It's not just checking a box. There's the reason there's boxes is because there's options. Is it one, two, or three? What applies here? Is it what type of divorce is it, like on the 170? Is it a default with, without, or uncontested type divorce? You don't check that box, your whole judgment case gets rejected. They will not just, and how simple would it be for them just to check that box? They know what it is. They know what kind of divorce case it is, fix it, put it on the copies, and then process and file your judgment. They won't do it. They'll go through it. And usually that's not, if you're doing your own divorce, not going to be your only error. So they will just go in, mark that's incorrect, and here's your error. And they'll keep going, review a few more items, rejected it for a few more items, and turn it back into court. And guess what? Just to go into that in more detail, not only will they not make any corrections or changes to anything in your judgment, they also are not, I'm talking about the courts, they are also not going to review your entire judgment package and say, here's the 27 reasons your divorce is being rejected. They're not there to explain to you, they're not the self-help center either. Keep that in mind. The clerks are there to approve your judgment, make sure it's done good. They will give you the reject items, but they're not going to tell you how to fix it. I would say the self-help center is different in that they don't review the paperwork because they're not the court. They will essentially try and work through that with you, but they also make errors as well because most of those folks are volunteers. So they're not checking your entire case. They're going to find a couple of reasons to reject your judgment. Not that they're looking for it, but they are. They'll reject it, send it back to you. You will fix them. And this was on one of the consultations I had today. She had submitted her judgment twice so far. The first rejection, she corrected the errors, thought I'm good to go, turned it back in, got rejected again for additional errors. And I told her this is commonplace. I used to do that for the court. I used to work with the courts, Fairleigh County, review the judgments in the back office. The judge isn't reviewing those. Can you imagine the judge sitting there reviewing documents? These are all done by the clerk's office within the departments, within the family law department. So I used to do that. I know exactly what happens. You go through it, mark a few things. You got 4,000 more cases you have to review, and you don't have time. So you're on a quota. So you go through there and mark off a few things, reject it, knowing it's going to come back. Then when it comes back, go through it a little deeper, find some more issues. And that's what was happening to her. And I've seen people have that happen to them 5, 6 times before they've picked up the phone and called me.